Ethan Rivera had never heard the word no in his life. As one of the most powerful faces in the tech industry, he could get anyone to say yes, even before they knew what they were agreeing to. With his sharp looks, icy confidence, and a diamond ring that always caught the light, Ethan didn't just close multi-million-dollar deals, he starred in countless headlines about love affairs and power plays. So when Amelia Hart, a young interior designer, flatly and confidently turned down his dinner invitation, it wasn't his heart that hurt. It was his pride. "Who does she think she is?" he muttered, standing inside his glass-walled office overlooking the city. His best friend, Ben Green, just chuckled and poured another glass of bourbon. "Maybe she's the first one brave enough not to fall into the arms of Ethan Rivera," Ben teased. "You're acting like she turned down a marriage proposal." Ethan tightened his grip on the glass, eyes burning. "No one says no to me, no one." Then, in a flash of wounded ego and impulsive pride, he made a declaration. "I'll make her fall in love with me. Not just that, within 6 months, she'll be my wife." Ben's eyes widened. "You're serious? Wanna bet?" Ethan smirked. $1,000, 0 cents, says Amelia Hart becomes Mrs. Rivera in less than 6 months. Ben stared in silence. For the first time, he saw something in Ethan's eyes he'd never seen before. Obsession. A game had begun, but neither of them knew. This bet would change everything. Ethan didn't waste time adjusting his game. Just 3 days after making the bet, he contacted the interior design firm where Amelia worked and personally requested that she lead the full renovation of his penthouse, a lavish, icy space perched atop a high-rise tower. Amelia, ever the professional, couldn't refuse such a high-profile opportunity, but from the very first meeting, she made her terms clear: strictly business. The first time she stepped into Ethan's home, she scanned the immaculate yet soulless space with calm detachment. "Your place has no soul," she said, not bothering to sugarcoat it. Ethan smirked. "Maybe that's because I never needed one before." Each week, Amelia visited the apartment 2 or 3 times to take measurements, brainstorm concepts, and review layouts. Ethan was always there, often under the excuse of getting a better understanding of his own lifestyle. But eventually he stopped pretending. He truly wanted to understand her. They started talking more, not just about color palettes and textures, but about life, beliefs, and the things that couldn't be drawn on a blueprint. One afternoon, when she casually mentioned her mother, a woman who had given everything for a man who didn't deserve her, Ethan went silent. His eyes softened, and Amelia began to notice, behind that composed, commanding exterior was a man trying to lower his own walls. "You speak like you're building walls," Ethan told her once during a debate over the living room's layout. "And you're always trying to tear them down," she replied with a faint smile. Every word, every glance felt like it was sketching something bigger than a floor plan, a real connection. The relationship between Ethan and Amelia gradually crossed the boundaries of professionalism. One afternoon, after selecting materials for the kitchen renovation, they sat on the wooden floor amidst scattered tiles and unfinished sketches. The conversation shifted from decor to something more personal. Fears of being hurt, the pressure to succeed, dreams they hadn't dared to voice. As the golden light of sunset filled the room, Amelia chuckled at one of Ethan's dry jokes. Then came a long, lingering silence, filled with meaning. Ethan looked at her as if seeing something beautiful he didn't know he had been searching for. "You're not like anyone else," he whispered. Amelia didn't respond, but when he leaned in and kissed her, she didn't pull away. That kiss wasn't an end. It was a beginning. From that day on, Ethan realized he was stepping into unfamiliar territory. He began to feel confused, nervous, and, for the first time, out of control. This wasn't a game anymore. But the problem was, he hadn't stopped playing it. One afternoon, while Amelia was away, Ethan stepped into her workroom to look for a layout. On the desk, he noticed a brown envelope stamped with the logo of his biggest competitor, Blake & Co. His heart pounded. Inside were trend reports, visual references, comparison charts, and handwritten notes. In an instant, every fear Ethan had ever buried came rushing back. Was she working for them? Was she using him? Memories of betrayal and past deals came flooding in. The instincts of a guarded businessman kicked in. Amelia returned just as Ethan was holding the documents. "What are you doing?" "What are you doing with this?" he asked coldly. "It's a gift," she replied, steadying her breath. "A benchmarking study. I was going to surprise you with a fresh vision I hadn't had the chance to show you." But Ethan had stopped listening. All he saw were promises, smiles, gentle touches, and the terrifying feeling of being played. They got married just a few weeks later in a quiet, rushed ceremony, as if both were trying to outrun reality. Ethan didn't bring up the misunderstanding again. Amelia didn't ask. It was as if they both wanted to believe love could fix everything. Their honeymoon was in Bora Bora, a tropical paradise floating in turquoise waters. Ethan had planned every detail perfectly: an overwater bungalow, candlelit dinners, peaceful mornings together. After months of guarding her heart, Amelia finally let go. She began to believe Ethan truly loved her. On their first night in the bungalow, Amelia stepped out of the bathroom with damp hair and a white silk nightgown. Ethan, adjusting the dim lights and lighting a few scented candles, turned around and saw her. His eyes softer than she'd ever seen, but Amelia looked tense. "Are you okay?" he asked gently, taking her hand. She looked down, hesitating. "Ethan, I've never... with anyone." He froze. "You mean, I've never been with someone before. I've never given that part of me away." Her words hit Ethan like a knife, because she had given her most intimate self to someone who had started it all with a bet. That night, they made love, slowly, sincerely, tenderly. But when Amelia fell asleep in his arms, Ethan lay awake, consumed by guilt with every breath he took. The next morning, as he prepared breakfast, he finally found the courage to speak. But before he could say a word, his phone rang. It was Noah. "We've got a problem," Noah said. "Daniel Blake is at the office." Ethan felt the floor drop beneath him. "He says he needs to talk to Amelia, urgently, and if we don't let him, he's flying to Bora Bora to tell her everything." They got married just a few weeks later, in a quiet, rushed ceremony, as if both were trying to outrun reality. Ethan didn't bring up the misunderstanding again. Amelia didn't ask. It was as if they both wanted to believe love could fix everything. Their honeymoon was in Bora Bora, a tropical paradise floating in turquoise waters. Ethan had planned every detail perfectly: an overwater bungalow, candlelit dinners, peaceful mornings together. After months of guarding her heart, Amelia finally let go. She began to believe Ethan truly loved her. On their first night in the bungalow, Amelia stepped out of the bathroom with damp hair and a white silk nightgown. Ethan, adjusting the dim lights and lighting a few scented candles, turned around and saw her, his eyes softer than she'd ever seen. But Amelia looked tense. "Are you okay?" he asked gently, taking her hand. She looked down, hesitating. "Ethan, I've never... with anyone." He froze. "You mean, I've never been with someone before. I've never given that part of me away." Her words hit Ethan like a knife, because she had given her most intimate self to someone who had started it all, with a bet. That night, they made love. Slowly, sincerely, tenderly, but when Amelia fell asleep in his arms, Ethan lay awake, consumed by guilt with every breath he took. The next morning, while making breakfast and gathering courage to confess, his phone rang. It was Ben. "We have a situation," Ben said, voice tense. "Daniel Blake is at headquarters." Ethan clenched the phone. Daniel, Amelia's ex-boyfriend, the one who left her because she wasn't ready to be intimate. What did he want now? "Why is he there?" Ethan asked. "He says he needs to see Amelia, urgently, and if we don't let him, he's flying to Bora Bora to tell her the truth." Daniel arrived just one day later. Amelia and Ethan were walking along the wooden bridge stretching over the water when a familiar voice called out behind them. "Amelia." She turned. and froze. Daniel, her ex-boyfriend who had left her for holding on to her principles, was standing just a few feet away. Ethan stepped forward, placing himself protectively in front of her. "You have no right to be here," Ethan said, voice cold as stone. "So I should let her live inside a lie," Daniel replied, his eyes fixed on Amelia. "He didn't love you in the beginning. It all started as a bet." Amelia's entire world collapsed. She turned to Ethan. She didn't need him to speak. His silence was the loudest confession. "Ethan, is it true?" she asked, her voice trembling. He looked down. "Yes. But everything changed. I love you. You took everything from me," she interrupted. "I trusted you, loved you, gave you the most sacred part of myself. And it all began as a game?" She stepped back, tears falling faster than she could wipe away. Her heart didn't just break. It shattered into dust. Ethan reached out, but she pulled away. Her final glance wasn't angry. It was filled with devastating disappointment. And then she turned and walked away, leaving Ethan alone on that bridge, surrounded by an emptiness no power could ever fill. Amelia left Bora Bora the next morning. She didn't leave a note, not a single word. Ethan didn't try to stop her, perhaps because he knew he had no right to. Back in her small city apartment, Amelia wrapped herself in silence. Everything looked the same. The aging kitchen, the gray walls, the worn-out sofa. But she was no longer the same woman. Sophie, her best friend, stayed close, bringing warm meals, silent hugs, and her familiar reminder, "You have to live for yourself now." Amelia didn't know how many times she cried. Sometimes she hated herself for loving Ethan, for believing him. But deep down, the sharpest pain was, she still loved him. A few weeks later, the nausea began. Morning sickness. She blamed it on stress at first, but the doctor recommended a blood test. The result? Positive. Amelia sat frozen in the clinic, staring at the white sheet with 2 clear lines. Pregnancy confirmed 5 weeks. She didn't cry, didn't scream. She just sat still. A wave of fear and unexpected joy washed over her. Inside her, a life was forming, the result of a love that had broken apart. That evening, when Sophie asked, "Are you going to tell Ethan?" Amelia simply shook her head. "Not yet. He has the right to know. But I also have the right to feel safe. I won't let this child grow up in the shadow of a bet." She gently placed her hand over her stomach and exhaled slowly. "Even if I have to do it alone, I will, because from now on, I'm no longer living just for me." A few days later, a paparazzi photo surfaced. Amelia leaving a pharmacy with prenatal vitamins in her hand. The image spread across gossip sites faster than she could imagine. The headline read, "Ethan Rivera's ex-wife pregnant? Shocking twist after abrupt split." Ethan saw the news at midnight. He stared at his phone, frozen, as the photo showed Amelia, her hand instinctively resting over her stomach. One sentence thundered through his mind. "She's pregnant, and she didn't tell me." For the first time in his life, Ethan Rivera, a man of plans, of control, had no idea how to fix what he had broken. The rumors spread faster than Ethan expected. Amelia Hart's name returned to the spotlight, this time not as the billionaire's wife, but as a single mother-to-be caught in scandal. Ethan read every headline, every comment, as if someone was carving guilt into his chest. It wasn't about reputation anymore. It was about the woman who had once seen the real him, and whom he had shattered. He didn't call, didn't text, didn't show up with flowers or empty apologies. He began with the only thing that mattered now, actions. Ethan hired a private medical team to assist with Amelia's prenatal care, but left no name attached. The highest quality prenatal vitamins arrived at her doorstep with a small note, "Not for me, for the baby." He rented out a vacant studio space in her neighborhood. The old building was restored, clean, bright, welcoming. One quiet afternoon, she received a single key with a note. No strings, no conditions. Just a place to begin again, if you want to. Amelia opened the door and froze. The space was white and filled with light, furnished with an oak desk, white walls, fresh sketchbooks, and untouched boards waiting for ideas. She knew only one person understood her this deeply. The next day, she found a small book in her mailbox. Healthy Pregnancy for Independent Moms. Inside the front cover was a folded note. I'm not asking for forgiveness, only a chance to protect you and the baby, this time with honesty. Amelia closed the note and placed a hand over her growing belly. She hadn't forgiven him, but the anger was no longer there. Maybe actions truly speak louder than words. Amelia began visiting the new studio a few times a week. She didn't do much, just sat in the gentle light, opened her old sketchbooks, and let her hand wander over blank pages. Soon, a small potted plant appeared on her desk. Lavender, her favorite. No card, no signature, but she knew, and she didn't react. One rainy day, Ethan showed up at the studio door unannounced. No umbrella, no flowers, no excuses. I just wanted to ask, how are you and the baby? Amelia looked at him for a long moment before replying softly, We're okay, still learning how to breathe without hurting. Ethan nodded. I won't stay. Just know that I'm here. When you're ready. He left, and she didn't call him back. From then on, Ethan began to appear subtly. A paper bag with homemade toast left by the door on Monday. A hard-covered design book slipped onto the shelf. Once, he quietly replaced the flickering hallway light she always complained about. Amelia said nothing, but she didn't shut him out. His presence was like a quiet rhythm, respectful, unintrusive, constant. One afternoon, while cleaning the shelf of sketchbooks, she found a note tucked into a page. If you'll allow it, I'd like to walk beside you. Not as someone seeking forgiveness, but simply as a father. She froze. The words were simple, but they were real. No pressure, no demands. That evening, she called Ethan. I need help hanging some floating shelves. You free? There was a pause on the other end. Just one heartbeat. Yes, I'm on my way. And when Ethan walked into the studio again for the first time in months, Amelia's eyes didn't hold suspicion, but the quiet consideration of someone learning to trust again. Oliver was born on a quiet October afternoon in a softly lit hospital room. Ethan held Amelia's hand the entire time, whispering not to comfort, but to be present. When the doctor placed the baby on her chest, Amelia cried, not from pain, but because for the first time in her life, she felt complete. The next day, Ethan approached her bedside, not with a ring, not with flowers, but with a folded piece of paper, written in handwriting no one had ever seen from him. I'm not proposing with a diamond. I'm proposing with sleepless nights, hours beside our son, and every mistake I've learned how to fix. If you say yes this time, I promise never to take love for granted again. Amelia looked at him for a long time, then nodded. She didn't speak. Her answer wasn't in tears, but in trust, rebuilt through silence, time, and consistency. They remarried a few months later. No grand dress, no press, just a soft afternoon sun, a quiet bow, and a baby laughing in his father's arms. That night, as Ethan rocked Oliver to sleep, he whispered, It started as a game, but you and your mom made me a man worth loving.